We are standing on Pleistocene sediment layers, where every inch of ground may conceal part of the bodies of the greatest predators ever to walk the North American continent. The genus Smilodon, a name meaning scalpel tooth, is not just a dry scientific label. It is a precise mechanical description of what we have found in the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles. There, more than 160,000 specimens have formed a vast archive, allowing us to reconstruct a dynasty that lasted from about 2.5 million years ago until the final days of the Ice Age, around 8,200 years ago. The high concentration of fossils at a single site like La Brea allows us to analyze not only the skeletal morphology, but also the evolution and adaptation of Smilodon through various periods of climate change. This is key to deciphering how a predatory genus could maintain its dominant position for such a record-breaking period. In your opinion, among the thousands of specimens found at La Brea, what structural features helped Smilodon maintain its top position in the food chain for so long? Let's begin our analysis from the oldest remains, where it all starts with a species that was smaller than you might imagine. The earliest traces lead us to Smilodon Gracilis. It was not a giant, but a cunning survivor, roughly the size of a modern jaguar. Through stratigraphic analysis, we believe Gracilis evolved from the genus Megar and became the first to fully develop the saber-tooth dentition. This species' agility allowed it to expand its range, laying the foundation for the entire lineage before its heavier descendants emerged. Throughout this era, they didn't focus on oversized targets, but instead hunted medium-sized hoofed animals, such as ancient camels and prehistoric horses, with prey weighing between 200 and 450 pounds. This choice of moderately sized prey was a clever survival tactic, allowing them to maximize their agility without jeopardizing their saber-shaped teeth, which were even more slender than those of their descendants. The stability of its food source and its high adaptability allowed Gracilis to become the longest surviving species in the Smilodon family for approximately 2 million years, creating a perfect biological blueprint for subsequent generations to follow and explode in size. As we move north across the plains, we encounter Smilodon Fatalis. This is the most common species found in the collections at the La Brea tar pits. With an average weight of about 620 pounds, Fatalis was comparable to a modern tiger, yet it possessed a far more robust skeleton. Based on healed injuries observed in the fossils, we see clear evidence of intense, face-to-face clashes with direwolves. Fatalis was not just a predator. It was a relentless competitor for survival in the perilous landscapes of North America. But the most remarkable stop on this research journey has to be South America, home of the giant Smilodon Populator. Measurements taken from the femur and skull suggest an astonishing figure. It could weigh up to about 1,040 pounds, comparable to an adult polar bear. Unlike most felines that lurk within dense forests, geochemical evidence suggests that Populator hunted in open terrain. With saber teeth reaching nearly 8 inches in length and a jaw that could open to an angle of up to 120 degrees, it was capable of clamping onto the necks of the largest hoofed animals with ease. For millions of years, this lineage stood at the top by becoming specialists in hunting megafauna. However, data from the late Pleistocene extinction event, around 13,000 to 9,000 years ago, reveals the dark side of that perfection. As large animals disappeared from the Americas, Smilodon faced a severe dietary crisis. Its heavy reliance on multi-pounds prey left it unable to adapt to a new world filled with smaller, faster animals. The scalpel tooth empire collapsed, leaving behind an ecological void, one that humans soon began to fill. However, the raw power of the saber-toothed lineage was not enough for them to dominate the plains, as they always had to remain wary of the large, pack-like legions lurking in the shadows. The first threat we noted in the fossil record was the dire wolf pack. The first specimen of this species was found in 1854 in the Ohio River, Indiana, and was initially named Canis primivus. At the La Brea asphalt pits in Los Angeles, the enormous number of their bones shows that this was an extremely dominant pack predator. Although individual direwolves had to yield prey to Smilodon, the solidarity of the pack created tremendous competitive pressure, forcing the Smilodon to remain highly vigilant whenever it caught prey. However, while the direwolf threatened with sheer numbers, another rival challenged Smilodon with the sheer pride of a similarly sized large cat. In taxonomic classification, the name Panthera atrox carries a haunting meaning: ferocious leopard or cruel lion. This is one of the most controversial records in American paleontology. For decades, researchers have been divided between two hypotheses: whether it was a separate evolutionary branch of the Pantherae subfamily, or simply a giant subspecies closely related to the Eurasian cave lion. Archaeological data reveals an incredibly sophisticated skeletal structure. Despite its enormous size, Atrox possessed a lightweight skeleton and an exceptionally long stride. This allowed them to traverse vast territories in North America with the agility of a track and field athlete. Fossil evidence suggests they were not merely brute predators, but all-around warriors with the ability to control open terrain, a perfect evolutionary trait for dominating the vast grasslands of their time. Even so, even a fierce leopard would have to yield when faced with a true phantom of speed and raw power gliding across the savanna. During the Pleistocene, if there was one creature that struck fear into every predator, it was the short-faced bear, Arctodus simus. Standing up to 11 to 12 feet tall when upright, about the height of a two-story house, it shattered every expectation of a carnivore. Its most unusual feature was its long, slender legs, turning this multi-thousand-pound giant into a true track athlete, capable of speeds between 30 to 45 miles per hour, allowing it to chase down swift prairie horses much like a modern cheetah. Yet the very legs that once helped the short-faced bear dominate the open plains became a burden as forests spread. Around 12,000 years ago, unable to hunt smaller, more agile prey like the brown bear Ursus arctos, this beast succumbed to the shock of climate change, proving that adaptability, not sheer power, determines survival. The prehistoric American ecosystem was a vast but perilous feast, where herbivorous animals pushed the limits of adaptation to the extreme. At the top of the list was the mammoth, the iconic creature with its curved tusks. They were not only the prime target of Smilodon, but also a mobile treasure trove for humans. The death of a mammoth meant a plentiful supply of food and materials for building houses and tools from bone and ivory for an entire tribe for months. Alongside the mighty elephants were the woolly rhinoceroses, a living testament to the marvels of evolution under extreme pressure. They have a layer of subcutaneous fat several inches thick, and a distinctive long tan coat, which helps them maintain body temperature even when temperatures drop below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Their flat, broad horns were not only a defense mechanism, but also the perfect tool for clearing thick snow and searching for hidden dry grass. Believe it or not, these resilient creatures dominated the tundra from 2.5 million years ago until around 10,000 years ago, witnessing the coldest days of the Pleistocene epoch before disappearing forever. Meanwhile, on the vast plains of North America, the ancient bison was the true engine of the ecosystem. Outnumbering any other hoofed animal, they served as the primary energy source, or perhaps the national meal, sustaining everything from the dire wolf to the American lion. The migrations of thousands of bison created natural trails and shaped the vegetation of entire continents. It was their abundance that provided the apex predators with the calories to maintain their massive muscles throughout the turbulent prehistoric era. Giant sloths, particularly those of the genus Megatherium, are among the most awe-inspiring creatures to have ever roamed the American continent, weighing up to 9,000 pounds. They possess an incredible natural defense system. Beneath their thick fur lies a thick skin reinforced by tiny bony protrusions, forming a chainmail armor that withstands the thunderous blows of saber-toothed tigers. However, this very size became their Achilles heel when the environment changed. Around 10,000 years ago, as the Ice Age ended, the vast grasslands that served as their migration highways were gradually encroached upon by dense forests due to soaring rainfall. cramped space of the jungle, their enormous bodies made it impossible for them to move nimbly enough to forage for hundreds of pounds of vegetation each day. The slowness that had been protected by their size now made them immobile targets for prehistoric hunter-gatherer tribes. They became extinct because they were unable to shrink themselves to adapt to an increasingly crowded and diverse world. If the ground sloth relied on size, the Glyptodon was the epitome of passive defense. A distant relative of modern armadillos, this 2,000-pound beast boasted a sturdy shell constructed from over 1,000 tightly joined bones and a tail spiked like an iron mace. However, Glyptodon taught us a harsh lesson. Iron armor cannot protect you from global warming. Unlike smaller animals that can burrow to escape the sun, Glyptodon was trapped within its own heavy shell. When the climate warmed abruptly at the end of the Pleistocene, the thick shell prevented them from regulating their body temperature effectively, causing severe overheating. At the same time, their specialization in eating tough grasses on the steppe plunged them into a survival black hole when this food source was replaced by dense forest vegetation. Unable to migrate far due to its heavy armor, this tank collapsed before it could understand that the world around it had completely changed. The rise of Homo Sapiens was the final piece that completely changed the landscape of the Ice Age. Lacking brute strength or sharp teeth, humans entered the Americas with the ultimate weapon: collective intelligence and the ability to control fire. We not only hunted giants for survival, but also indirectly pushed apex predators like Smilodon to the brink of extinction by competing for scarce food resources. It was this adaptability and group hunting strategy that allowed this tiny primate to overcome climate shocks that prehistoric giants had failed to overcome. The disappearance of the megafauna was not just an end, but a transfer of power to a species capable of using its intellect to shape the world. What do you think about the clash between human intelligence and the power of prehistoric beasts? Would these giant creatures have survived to this day without our presence? Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next journeys unraveling prehistoric mysteries.
That same principle applies here. Otodus megalodon was not the stocky, heavy-bodied predator we once imagined. Instead, it was likely far more elongated, more refined. It had a shorter head, a flatter, more compact jaw, long pectoral fins for balance and lift, and a large, powerful tail designed not for bursts of speed, but for sustained, efficient movement.